Well, hello everyone. I hope we're live. I'm going to double check my phone, just see what's going on here. But hey, it's Mom's Monday Lunch Bunch. Yes, oh good, here we are. We are live. And Sarah and I are both on here, so we know it's all working. That is awesome. Y'all
All
are in
right.
for a treat. I'm so glad you're here, Sarah. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Carrie. This is awesome.
Well, I'm really excited. I know we've had lots of moms well, I just think about reading, and sometimes that can be a real struggle. I mean, some kids are just
Yeah,
natural born readers and they just pick it up like this, but that is not true for all of them. And so I think this is going to be very helpful to our moms, just to be able to give them some practical advice and be able to get them started. So I just thank you for being here and letting us sort of move forward and hear some of your great tips and everything. Now,
definitely. Thank you for having me.
okay, I just lost it again. Okay, so sorry.
Uh-oh.
We're going to double check it. There we go. Okay, I just got to get in the right place. So let me just say too, if y'all have questions for Sarah as we go through the interview, please feel free to just leave a comment below and we'll answer them. If you're listening to the replay, go ahead and leave a comment there. We'll be tagging Sarah in any questions that you have for her so she can come back and answer those as well.
Mhm.
But we're going to go ahead and just dive in and get started. Why don't you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move in to the reading aspect of the interview.
Sure. My name is Sarah Miller, and I blog over at homeschoolingforhim.com. I have two kiddos of my own. So if you have younger kids, I have younger kids too, and I'm right there in the trenches with you. And I also have a background as a teacher. I spent over a decade in the classroom before I had my kids. So that was where I got the inspiration for the reading things that I'm doing now. And I really love helping parents teach their kids how to read.
That's so exciting. I can tell you right now, I've seen some of the things that Sarah puts out. They are top quality resources. They are things that really work. I've really enjoyed just getting to know her and then us work together on different projects. She actually, I forgot to say this. She's actually been one of our homeschool superheroes and a Life Skills Leadership Summit speaker as well. And I know our moms have gotten a lot out of your sessions in both of those events. So well, we're going to talk about making reading fun. You know, learning to read can sometimes just be like, not just for the kid, for the mom, because they're just like, what
Mhm.
am I doing? I got to figure this out. So I know some homeschool parents feel sort of intimidated by teaching reading. What makes homeschool parents great reading teachers?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it's so easy as a parent to just feel not qualified to teach a subject that's as important as reading. I think we get really down on ourselves and we see all of the areas that we fall short or maybe that we don't know what to do. And we feel like we aren't qualified. But I have to tell you, I'm coming at it from both sides. I have that education background that so many parents feel like they need. And I also have the experience as a mom. And what really has helped me to be successful as a homeschool teacher is not the education background. If anything, I think that has really actually hurt me a little bit because I've had to unlearn a lot of really bad habits from the schools. But I think that as parents, we really are uniquely qualified because of the way that we know our kids. And I think that, you know, you can learn math or you can learn reading or spelling or whatever, but the thing that really sets you apart and makes you qualified as your child's teacher is the way that you know your child and you know what motivates them and you know what they like and just how to interact with them in a way that if you sent your child to a school, their teacher may or may not know that about them. And so I think that knowledge of your child is what really qualifies you to be a great teacher for them in any subject, including reading.
That's so awesome. And, and I just want to say this as people are popping in and out. If you do have questions, leave them. We'll sort of answer them along the way. Leave a comment as well.
Yeah.
And if you have a struggle with reading, put that in the comments right now so we can address it. But you talking, that is just so, I have a master's in curriculum and instruction, and I taught public school for 6 years. And I will tell you, when I started homeschooling, I had people going, oh, you're so qualified. You're so qualified. I'm like, and then I started homeschooling and I learned more about educate, like real education, true education. I learned more about it as a homeschool mom, homeschool teacher than ever before. And I agree with you. If You know, God gave you your kids. You know them better than anyone else does. And I just love that you're really reminding our moms of that. Well, how can moms know that their kids are really ready to learn to read?
Yeah, I think it's so important that we wait to make sure that our kids are ready before we start teaching them. Because if you're pushing your child to read before they're ready, then that's one of the best ways to get them frustrated about the process and to just really have a lot of struggles that can be avoided if you just wait until they're ready. So there's actually 4 signs that I use when I'm trying to decide if a child is ready to learn how to read, and they spell out the word able, ABLE. So the A is for awareness. So you want to make sure that like your child is starting to notice letters as they're just around doing things. So like maybe if you're driving in the car, your child might see the road signs or the sign on a building, and they might start to notice some of those letters there, or like the letters on your t-shirt, if you've got a t-shirt with writing, just any kind of words that are out there in their environment, they'll start to notice those. So that's the A for awareness. And then the B stands for books. So your child should be able to hold a book when you're reading it. They should know how to turn the pages. They probably should start to know that the text is read from the top of the page to the bottom and across the lines from left to right. So just kind of that basic awareness of how a book works. And then the L is for letters. So you want them to know most of their letter names, maybe some of their letter sounds, and then also things about how the letters work. So like there's a capital and a lowercase version of each letter, and those two make the same sound, those kinds of skills. And then the E is for excitement. And I think this is the most important piece. Kids have to be really excited about books and about the process of learning how to read. And that excitement is so important for them really being successful in learning to read too.
I love that. I had never heard you share the able thing. And I have to tell you, when you talked about books, believe it or not, I thought of my 2-year-old granddaughter. So even when she was 1, well, they always read 3 books at night and then the Bible story book. But when she was 1, her parents would take turns reading one page and then the next. But it was her job to actually turn the page. And I never really thought about that as a preparatory skill. Now, obviously, she's 2 years old. She's going on like 12. She thinks she runs the world. She may run the household, but really that is a skill that you sort of take for granted and you don't even think, because we've been doing it all our lives, you know? So I really appreciate just breaking it down into such simple things: awareness, books, letters, and excitement. So, and excitement, yes, moms, be excited. So, okay.
Yes,
So,
definitely. I love that. Yeah. The turning the pages is good too, because it's a way to get them involved in the story. And when they're so young, they have to have a role to play in reading the story before they can read. So anything like turning the pages, or if you've got like a flat book or touch and feels, any of those ones to keep them engaged are fantastic, so that they'll sit and listen to more pages before they take off.
that's so good. Well, and I know, I mean, I have 4 grandkids, but one's a baby. He still sits and listens, even though, you know, he didn't know what's going on, but it's still good practice. All of my grandkids would sit and listen to me read for an hour or two if I would sit and read. And I think a lot of it is just that modeling. The parents they've read every single day to their kids. And so y'all, if you are not using books, y'all need to go to the library and get some books. So, okay, so I'm just rambling on. You probably have some other activities that moms could do in their homeschool just to prepare them. What kind of activities would you encourage?
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I think reading books out loud is definitely the number one main thing. And one little thing that you can do when you're doing that is you can actually point to the words as you're reading. So maybe your child is holding the book and they're turning the pages like we talked about, but then as you're reading the individual words, you're just going to take your finger and point to the words as you read underneath them. And your child might look at the words and they might not, but over time, that's a really great way to just kind of help them learn that the text is read from left to right, from the top of the page to the bottom. And you don't have to explicitly teach them anything. They're just reading along with you and maybe noticing that as they go. So that's just a really easy way to add something in without any additional time. We also like to work on our letters with magnetic letters. And this was one of my favorite things to do with my kids when we were learning them. We'd get like the set of wooden magnetic letters that you could stick on the refrigerator, and then we would take 5 or 6 of them at a time, and we would just practice saying the names of the letter as they stuck them on the fridge. Or sometimes I'd do like a little quiz and I'd stick 5 or 6 of them on the fridge. And then I'd ask my son, okay, which one of these is B? Can you find me B? And just those kinds of activities to help them learn the letters. I love the magnetic letters because the kids can actually hold the letter and feel its shape as well. So they're getting the visual of getting to see the letter, and the auditory if you're telling them the sound, and then the kinesthetic because they can feel the shape of the letter, all of those in one.
That's so cool. So what do you think about like, or do you ever start with the name? I know my 2 oldest grandkids started learning the letters because they learned how to write their name before they ever learned anything else. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great strategy for sure. I think it depends on the kid's name. Some names are way easier than others. I realize that because my son's name is super long and has all sorts of complicated letters, and my daughter's name is really short and her letters are really easy. So she's been all about her name and he never was. But yeah, depending on your child's name, that is a really great strategy because their name is something that's so important to them. And so that's probably one of the first words that they'll start to recognize because they'll see those letters and associate it with themselves.
That's so good. Yeah, because my oldest is Faith. So that's nice and easy. The next one is Elizabeth, but we were there this weekend. Now the Z was backwards, but everything else, I just was looking at her like, she just turned 5. You know how to write all those letters. You got such a long name. I'm just so impressed with this. So I don't know if she knows the rest of the letters, but she knows her letters. So that's really cool. So
that's awesome. That's something they don't tell you about as a mom when you're trying to name your child, right?
That is the truth. I know, because we kept saying, are we gonna call her Elizabeth or Liz or Lizzie and it's Elizabeth. It is the full name. So anyway, yeah, they don't tell you those things beforehand. So.
Yep.
Anyway, I love the magnet letters too, because sometimes I'll be really honest, sometimes they were sort of a hassle because they were like all over the place. But they were worth it. And sometimes moms, you just got to remember, you just got to make a little sacrifice here and there and let them interact with books and letters and words and stuff as well. So, well, what should parents keep in mind when they're teaching their kids how to read?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the most important things to keep in mind, and one of the biggest areas where parents get tripped up, is to make sure that the lessons are really short. So when you're trying to decide how long your reading lesson should be, you want it to be about 2 to 5 minutes times your child's age. So if you have a 5-year-old, you're looking at no more than 10 to 25 minutes total for the length of that lesson. So it can be really easy as a parent to try to make our lessons really long, or just to try to push it to like get that last thing in if we're almost done and our kids are starting to get tired. But almost always when we try to push it like that, that's when the frustration starts. And so I think it's really important to make sure that we are not making our lessons longer than our kids' attention span. So that's a really important thing. And then I think another thing when we're helping our kids learn how to read is to make sure that we're including hands-on activities that make reading really fun for our kids. So a lot of times the reading curriculum will have like a big set of flashcards or like a lesson for the kids to read that goes through, different words for them. But I think that it's really important that we make sure that we include lots of hands-on activities as well to make it fun. And then books as well, so that our kids are having the experience of reading a book, and so that they're seeing that all of these activities that they're going through and doing are leading towards them being able to actually read a book.
That is awesome. I caught half of it because somehow I accidentally deleted myself from Zoom, but I'm back. But I heard the different ages. I mean, I really appreciated the parts that I heard was the practical of like, if there's certain ages, certain minutes and things like that.
Yeah, and just not having it be too long. Yeah.
And that's so true. And okay, I want to go back to something you said earlier, and that is not starting your kids too early. I had thought
Yeah.
about that, then I had the other thought about books and stuff. So can you just expand a little bit about that? Because one thing that I hear from moms, oh, my child is 4 years old and reading on a second grade level, or you can fast forward it. My child is in sixth grade, but they're reading on a 12th grade level. And I just want to say, yes, but I hope you're not giving them 12th grade books because sometimes they're not emotionally ready. I had a
Mhm.
friend, I want to say it wasn't Beowulf, but there was one of these middle-aged books that was appropriate for high schoolers, but not for a 10 or 11-year-old. Can you just sort of respond to whatever your thoughts are about sometimes we push our kids too early into reading and it does frustrate them or they're really not even emotionally ready for it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So, two things about that. First of all, I think it's really important to remember that each child is unique. And so, what happened for one child, even within your family, from one child to the next, the timeline of one child learning how to read is probably not going to be the same as their siblings. And that's totally okay. There is a really wide range of when kids are ready to read. I think the most commonly I've heard that it's somewhere between ages 3 and 7, but even that is a huge range. I mean, that's a 4-year range. And there are kids that will read younger than 3 and kids that won't read until older than 7. So, I mean, it's such a wide range of what's normal and what's okay. And honestly, it's okay if your child is anywhere in that range. And as parents, that can be so frustrating because it's so easy to say, like, well, just give me the checklist. What is it that I need to do to be able to prepare my kid for this and to be successful? But the truth is that some of that, when our child is going to be ready, is kind of outside of our control. There's like a genetic component and all these other things. So, it's not. If you have a child that's on the learning to read at 7 end of the spectrum, that does not mean that you have failed as a parent or that you haven't done everything in your power to prepare them. That just means that your child is growing at a different rate, and that's totally okay. Just the same as if they were shorter and then they got taller at a later age. You know, it just is what it is, and that's okay. So,
Thank you
and
so
then
much. I just appreciate that. And I'm going to share a quick story. My son, he learned to read normal 5 or 6 or 4, whenever you learn. He had a friend, same age, did not learn to read until he was 10 years old. His mom was a public school teacher, but she was homeschooling. And she just patiently kept introducing things to him at 10. When he turned 10 or 11, my goodness, that kid skyrocketed. And because she did not just push him in, make him feel like a failure, he was able, I mean, I will tell you, Hunter's a great student. He like won all these awards in high school and everything, my son. But that kid went far beyond Hunter in reading. Hunter knew how to read. He didn't really care to read unless I could find the right book for him. But this kid just skyrocketed. And so I just want to say, be patient and let your kids be kids and know that every kid is different. So I just really appreciate you sharing that, Sarah. Thank you so much.
yeah, definitely. And I think on the other end, I love what you said about needing to be really careful about the topic of the book. I'm going through this one with my son right now because he does read a couple of grade levels ahead, and I'm really excited for him with that. But it definitely brings a challenge as a mom because there are some books that we've brought into our house that I've thought, oh no, we can't actually read this. You know, this is not, or like he'll pick something up at the library and then he'll start asking questions about some of the topics or whatever. So I think especially if you have a child who's reading ahead of their grade level, previewing the books before they read them as much as possible is so important. And that's hard because those are the kids that are reading more, so it's harder to preview, but it is really, really important to do that.
Well, and this is the other thing I tell parents when they are, I'm like, if you just skip 2 years worth of books, then you've just missed some really great classic books that are really good for kids to read. And just because and I'll be honest, I'm a type A person. I made good grades. I was I always tried hard in school and did all this stuff. So that was really important to me. So having kids that were doing well in school, it was something I had to really fight against and not just go, oh, my kids are doing this, this, and this. And when your child is below, it's hard because you feel like it's an impression of you. Well, if they're going ahead, you feel like that's an impression of you. And it really isn't. It's just, they're all different. And we need to make sure they get to enjoy all the books at all the different ages as well. So,
Yeah,
well,
I love
I
that.
know one of the things you said, Abel, is excitement. So what can parents do to get excited about reading and then help their kids feel confident in their reading skills?
Yeah, so I think one of the best ways to do this is to get your kids reading something that's got a cover and pages and looks like a book as soon as possible. I think that so often in our reading curriculums, we have these lesson books or these stacks of flashcards, and like they're great tools for getting our kids to be able to read, but they're so boring, and they're boring for our kids. And if we're honest, like a lot of times they're boring for us as parents too, right? I mean, I know I have quite a few that I would not like to read with my son ever again. That would be okay. So I think it's just really important that we get our kids as soon as possible into books that are motivating and interesting and exciting for them to be able to read as well. So that's why go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've got the reading curriculum coming out this week, and that's why in that curriculum, it uses these side-by-side reading books. So the way that they work is they've got a parent page on one side of the page and a child page on the other side. And the parent page has more text and it tells the story of the book. And then the child page just includes words that the kids already know from their reading lessons. So the parent and the child are able to read the book side by side together. They're each reading a part of the story, but the kids' part of the story is designed to help them just gain confidence in their reading skills while they're participating with their parent in reading this more exciting story.
I love that because, I mean, I love that on so many levels. The first thing I think of, sorry, is not reading, but relationships. Like you're building relationships with your children by reading together. And then the benefit of spending time with them is your child gains confidence in their reading skills. And I've never even heard of that idea, but I just think that's just such an awesome idea. And I'm excited to see more of your reading curriculum as you bring it out. I also know that you've got a free class that you are offering to people. We're going to take questions. I've been watching my phone, but I don't see any questions. So y'all write any questions down that y'all have about reading. But while you're writing those questions down, Sarah, tell us a little bit about the class that you're going to be offering as well. That'll dive a little deeper into this.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to be talking about 3 keys to raising a lifelong reader. And there's going to be 2 classes. It's tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern or tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. And they're both the same, so you can do either one. But we're going to be talking about 3 keys to raising a lifelong reader. So I'm going to be sharing the first one is your superpower, the thing that you can do to make you a better reading teacher. And then we're going to be talking about my #1 reading hack that will eliminate 90% of reading fights and frustration before it even starts. And we're going to be talking about how to get kids really excited about reading during the process of learning to read. So I'm really excited to share all of that.
That sounds so good. I think this is going to be so helpful to moms. I will say I was looking at some comments. So my kids, this is interesting. My kids taught themselves how to read. My now 6-year-old son sat down in our public library and started reading books he had never seen before. And most of the time now they're 8 and 6. When I ask them to grab their book, sorry, my screen went out. They give me brief grief regardless of who picked the book. So it sounds like Nikki's doing something right. I'm impressed that Nikki, that your kids taught themselves to read. I may think that one of my daughters, because I don't really know how Hunter did. All 3 of my kids went to kindergarten outside of homeschooling, and then Hunter came home and we just reinforced it. But I will say this, when I think of Sarah's curriculum and it's the parent and the student, to me, all of a sudden, it sounds like, I don't know about you moms, but when I would sit and listen to my kids read out loud to me and they were just like, I was just about to just like go, let me read it out loud myself because it's just so frustrating. But gosh, if you are doing it together, it just seems like it would take some of the frustration out for moms as well. So that sounds like a really great tool.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for Nikki, maybe if she can think like even outside of the box a little bit more about what kinds of books for your son, like maybe get some graphic novels or get an audiobook or get a nonfiction book about whatever topic he's interested in, and like just try not to put any limits on it and just see if there's something that he'll be interested in. I think that maybe might help.
Yeah, I think that would be really good because, and I think it's so important that we do find books that our kids are interested in. I know I had my middle daughter, Gentry, any book, anything, I handed it to her, she would read. Ashley, more history, maybe science. Hunter, nothing. It was like I was constantly looking for something. I found out he loved anything with water, like Swiss Family Robinson or Treasure Island. He liked the Flat Stanley series, and there was something it's an LY, I don't know. Anyway, there's another series that he liked as well. And now that I've got a 8-year-old nephew, I keep going to Hunter's Box and looking for, because I give books on their birthday. So I look and get a book and then go and say, Uncle Hunter loved this book, So anyway.
That's great.
Okay, so let me see. I don't see any more questions. If y'all do have questions and you're watching the replay, let us know. I put the link to Sarah's class. It's tonight and tomorrow, so you're welcome to join her. It is completely free. And so, I just appreciate your taking time out of your day and visiting with us. Is there any closing comments or anything you'd like to leave us with as we finish off?
I think we pretty much covered it. Thank you so much for having me, Carrie. This was really fun and just so wonderful to be able to encourage everybody about reading. So thank you.
Well, thank you for doing this. I can't wait to see how this new curriculum comes out and just sort of see how it helps families as well. If you have any struggles, or even if you don't, I encourage you to get on that class today and tomorrow, watch it, and you just never know. If I can find one little tip here and there or one little resource, it's worth my time and it will help my kids as well. So thanks so much, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Carrie.
All right, I'm Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child. We will talk to y'all later.